And we are back live. It's Chris Jones here from the London Screenwriters Festival with London SWF 365 Live. It's our first fully live event since the festival that crashed into our lives in the spring and summer of this year. And it's so exciting to be back live with everybody. We were just chatting in the chat room earlier, saying just how invigorating it feels, and I think there's a little message in that, which is, take action, and it livens the soul a little bit, the creative soul. So this is the beginning of a new phase for us with LSF 365, where we're going to be doing way more live events, and many of them will be available to everybody who just wants to tune in. So if you're watching in the private SWF 365 Facebook group, you can share it on your own timeline. You can tweet about it. You can Instagram about it. Tell everybody you want to know. Come and watch. Join in the conversation live right now. Tonight, we are so excited. We have Felicia Day with us all the way from America. And helping me with that conversation is Savannah Morgan, one of the true grit troopers of LSF 365. One day I'll share the whole journey of how Savannah ended up joining us, but maybe tonight's not that night because we have Felicia with us. So a little bit of housekeeping, parish news before we move on. Those of you who are interested in LSF 365 Autumn, which is the October event, I'm sure you've heard on the grapevine, we're moving it to January. There will be much more official information about that. The logic really is, well, there's twofold. One is, as a team, we were burnt out after the spring-summer event, and we realized we weren't in a position to do it full justice. But perhaps more importantly, many people have come to us and said, you know what, it would be really cool to be able to do it in January because the nights are going to be long, it's going to be dark, we're going to be stuck inside, it's going to be post-Christmas, and of course there's the whole COVID. Who knows what world we're going to be living in, but what you can be certain of is that we're going to be beaming into your living room, into your bedroom, into your mobile phone, onto your all the channels that we have available to you. And the last thing before I hand over to Savannah is we are going to do live interactive chat tonight. So you may need to enable the chat. Now, it's probably up there if you're in Facebook. You might need to say enable StreamYard. And it will come up with a scary message saying StreamYard controls everything on the internet for you now. Just click yes, and then you'll be able to comment, and we'll see your smiling face as your avatar when you do that. So I'm just going to bring Savannah into the studio. Savannah, are you there? Hello. Hello, Scotland. How are you?
Hello. I am beside myself right now. Felicia Day is here.
Fantastic.
Hi, everyone.
Well, look, my job is done. I'm going to hand you over to Savannah. I'm going to shut up. We got an hour of joy, and here she comes. Everybody stand and applause now. Here we go. Hey!
Hello, hello, hello. Oh, this is lovely. Thank you so much for having me with your accents and everything.
So look, before we go any further, I'm just going to bow out. I'll be here in the background, Savannah, should you need me. But have a fantastic time, and I'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
He has a really good radio voice. Do all British people talk like that? No.
There are so many accents up here. It's quite astounding. Yes.
Yeah. He sounded like what, maybe one of the people who do commentary on sports events, or maybe just maybe rugby. I don't know.
It'd be great. We should have Chris Jones do rugby.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's quite his cup of tea, but yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. I just want to have a shout out for anybody so a lot of people know you as an actress. You've been my personal idol for at least 10 years now.
This is crazy. I love it. I love it.
I think there's a lot of us out there that are just like silently idolized, and you never know that we exist, but we're like millions of us. And
that means so much. And that is a lot. Those are a lot of hybrids right there. That is a lot. Like I gotta get above it.
So you're an actress in shows like Supernatural and Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog and Eureka. You're also a producer, screenwriter. You're the creator and star of the award-winning web series The Guild, and all of those other things that I just mentioned, and a mother and a podcaster and a Twitch streamer. And yes, just kind of a trailblazer for geekdom and for girls and women everywhere. So thank you
so
again.
much. I do a lot. I don't know if I do it all as well as if I actually focused on one of them, but that's just me. One day I might just find that it was ADD my whole life, and that I really should have just had 4 maybe of those hybrid things. But I'm really happy to be here, and I appreciate you saying that. I think the best thing we can do on this planet is inspire other people, because really that's our impact, right? We all just die at some point. This is going to be a good talk.
Inspiring from Felicia. Okay,
Oh,
so
Sam, thank you so much, Sam.
the chat's been going absolutely nuts leading up to tonight. So I'm going to kick us off with a banner from Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is a show in which you get to play a villain for once. Mm-hmm. And you also, which a lot of people maybe don't know, you also wrote several of the episodes. I think 4 or 5.
I wrote on 5. I did riffing on 5 of the episodes, and then one of them I did sketch writing. So that was a very big thrill, because I've been a fan of the show since I was a little kid. My brother and I used to fight over the TV, and the only time we would not fight was when Mystery Science Theater was on. So it was such a dream come true to be a part of the universe of that show. And then writing on it, it was amazing. I literally started crying when I went on set, and Crow, the robot, was saying the words that I wrote. It was an incredible feeling. I have to tell you, that was probably the height of everything I've ever done.
So walk us through that. So did you each, like, because there were several writers on this show, did you take specific characters? Were you all working in a group? Were you bouncing off each other live? How did this go?
Yeah, so there were 2 seasons that I did the show, and they were a little bit different, each of them. So they actually, Joel, the creator of the show, their whole team invented a sort of a way for everyone to watch the movie and then add their riffs in. So basically, you would have like 2 weeks or something to write all your riffs in for a movie. And so, or maybe it was 1 week for a movie. So it was 1 week a movie. And so every day you kind of have to do 15 minutes of riffing, which you think, oh, this should be pretty easy, right? Like, we're just telling jokes, because everybody watches a movie and they come up with like 5 or 6, right? Imagine doing it, as many riffs as possible. And so the philosophy that Joel always taught all of us is like, just put everything on the page. Even if it's stupid, just put it down. Write as many as you can. Don't go for quantity, not quality. And that's not my style. I am all about like gestating an idea for forever and then abandoning it because I can't figure out the perfect way to do it, which is not very functional. So it was a good lesson. And one of the episodes I got to write with my brother, which was really funny. It was like a dream come true for him as well. And that was a little bit easier because we kind of like were on the same timeline and we could see each other's riffs, and like he would inspire me and I would inspire him. And that was a great collaborative process. But writing in a vacuum and just getting to a point where there's like a long fight scene with no dialogue, and you're just like struggling to come up with a way to make fun of this horrible movie, which is just boring and not really funny. It was a lesson in how to write comedy, really, and how to dig deep and how to bore yourself and then get out of it and actually just write something down. It was really a good lesson. And then for the second season, I only read up 1 episode because we only did 6 episodes. I was supposed to write on 2, but I got the flu. And so, Mac and Me, I didn't get to write on Mac and Me, which is like the one thing I regret in this life, but I had the flu really badly. So, but I wrote on one, and that was a little bit different process. It was more of a room. So there were people on the East Coast and the West Coast. And so we would have 15 minutes to riff. So we got the movie the week before, and then every day we'd go through the 15 minutes and pick the best riffs. And so we'd still enter them in that program, but everyone would pitch their riffs. And that was a little bit more like a comedy writer's room, which I've actually never done. And it was a really fun experience. And there's nothing better than like pitching a riff out and having like Joel laugh at you. And you're like, oh, great. He didn't really like a lot of my Little Pony jokes or my World of Warcraft jokes. But other than that, I did get a lot of riffs in.
That's amazing. Did you guys have to deal with studio notes? Because this was for Netflix.
Yeah, I think the good thing is that was a licensed show, so it was really more of a delivery kind of thing. So Joel, the great thing about that show is that Kickstarter funded the first one. It was one of the biggest Kickstarters up until that point. And so really it was just all Joel. And our head writer, Elliot Kalin, who was a writer on The Daily Show. So he was the head writer in a sense. And Jonah and Barron and Hampton, the actors, are also writers and stand-ups. So they would write on a lot of the shows as well. So I don't think there were studio notes on like what you can do, what you can't do, which is a very novel thing, as everyone knows in screenwriting. So it really was a pure expression of Joel's heart. And I think it was great because he really updated the show in a way that was accessible to new audiences, but also loyal to the old, which is very hard to do.
Did you, like, because the Guild is full of funny moments as well, so you have been funny kind of all the time that I have known you. But is this just completely innate, or have you done training for this? Or, how do you work on your comedy?
I never consider myself a funny person at all. I was more of this dramatic ballerina, classical violinist. I was homeschooled my whole life, and I went to college and I majored in classical violin and mathematics. So I was kind of more of like a weird, aloof ice queen up until the point where I moved to LA, and I got cast in a comedy play. And that was an improv theater as well. And I started taking improvisation classes. And people were like, "Oh, you're funny." And I was like, "Really? I never thought I was funny at all." And so it was this great discovery about myself that I just wasn't in the environment to express. And after that, I just kept taking class after class after class. And improvisation, I was in a troupe. I did sketch writing. And that really got me into everything that I do. So I think comedy is about being unexpected and surprising yourself and surprising people around you. And I think my very strange upbringing probably makes me funny in a way where people are just like, "Why would you think that? That's very bizarre." But, the funniest people I've ever worked with were doctors and lawyers, the improvisers, because they don't have the same background. They're not referencing movies all the time. They're referencing their own lives and the things they encounter in real life. And sometimes they're much more funny than the things you make up because you're, weaned on entertainment.
That's amazing, and this is a really good point. Chris, I've got like number 5 is Felicia's 2 books, so I want to mention You're Never Weird on the Internet Almost, which I read first, and then Embrace Your Weird, which I've got my own copy of right here because my other one's on my Kindle. But this is a book that you actually want to have physically because it's got all of these awesome places to like do things yourself. Which I'm very bad. I went against the rules of the book and I didn't actually draw in my version.
Savannah, you're supposed to. The whole point is to break the rules.
I did it on my iPad.
Oh, no.
But I couldn't bring myself to join my book.
Well, that's the thing. That was the whole point of me. So I wanted to do sort of a workbook, and it turned more into a essay book with work pages. And the whole point was I wanted people to tear the book. I wanted them to, because I wanted people to do things that they thought were wrong. But really, what's the harm in doing things that are wrong, quote unquote wrong? And the whole aim of the book is to really dig deep inside of yourself and upend the things that you believe about yourself and the world and about your creativity and your art and discover new things. And the only way you can do that is, I think COVID has really taught us all that there's a lot more to learn about ourselves, and there's a lot more that will come out of us during adversity than we ever could have discovered. And without these crises in our lives, we really can't discover the depths of who we are or our real voices. And so the book was designed to do that in a friendly way, maybe not like COVID in a definitely not friendly way.
So I'm going to come back to that because it's your idea of hero selves that I absolutely love, and I want to dig deeper into that.
Oh, thanks. Great.
I'm going to kind of backtrack for a second into characters, because your characters, so Chris, if I can have characters, yeah. So there's the
Guild. This is so professional. Wow, this is beautiful.
So your characters in the Guild are all so diverse, and their dialogue is so on point, and they all have their own quirks, and they have their own flaws. So do you have a method that you turn to for generating characters? Has it evolved?
It definitely has evolved. Like the Guild, I was only a sketch writer at that point. And so I have no methodology. I don't have training as a screenwriter. I've read a lot of books, and not a lot have clicked with me. I think the thing I've learned over the years is that you just have to find your own method by working. You can't have somebody tell you there's a paint by numbers method or this is the way you should do a character arc or whatever. You have to really find what resonates with you, and that only comes from doing the work itself. It's like acting too. You can do as many acting classes as you can possibly do, but if you're on a stage or in front of a camera, you're not going to get better unless you're on the stage or in front of the camera. It's a really work in progress kind of. I think creativity is work in progress, and that's why that's the core of Embrace Your Weird. Really, it's like the work will teach you what you need to know. Obviously, you can be guided, but it really is. You can't just stay stopped up and expect to have all the training tell you what to do. It's not going to work. So. Anyway, so yeah, for somebody's calling me. So for the guild, like those characters were not based on real people, but they were based on archetypes, and I feel like that's something that I have a talent doing. I love putting people together and finding places where they can conflict, but also intersect in a way, like what they have in common and what they don't have in common, and it really is fun for me. And I've realized over the years that I do everything on feeling and sensation. It's like I'm blindly massaging a script to figure out where it is. It's almost like a sculptor. And I do it, I think it's almost a synesthesia kind of thing where I'll feel like, oh, that's right now. But it's absolutely just an emotional sort of mismatch of feeling. And I know that's really weird to say. It's the same thing when I see a piece of content. I know that's going to go viral because there's something about the way it feels that it's like, oh, this is universal. And I've only done a couple of things myself like that, but I've seen a lot of things go viral on the internet, and like it's definitely an emotional sort of amalgamation of something. And that's where I feel like with a character, sometimes you don't get it on your first draft, but ideally you kind of at least set your characters up so you know that they're going to conflict in a really fun way, and they'll also have different points of view that will lead you into crazy situations that will cause good story to come out of them.
So then do you work fairly loosely with structure? You just let your characters...
I mean, this is... I was like, I don't know if I should talk to these people. No, I mean, I'm the kind of person... I get very stuck in outlines. So if I sit down and try to... I've just stated I have many half outlines of many screenplays that I've never finished, okay? So the only way that I work is to get on the bus and start driving. And then I'll get like 10 pages in and I'll be like, I don't know where I'm going, or this isn't going right. And then I'll be depressed for 2 weeks. And then I'll be like, I'm never going to write this again. And then I'll be like, wait, let's just back up and do some outlining. And so I'll take kind of what I did and I'll do another outline. And then I'll kind of, this is the structure that they need to hang on. So I have to start sewing the clothes in a terrible way and then kind of hang it on the mannequin and be like, well, that's terrible. Let's undo these threads, but these threads work. And so it's very inefficient and not very commercially viable at all. But at the end of the day, I can't work only from an outline because it's so cold and it doesn't have, I have to get in there and massage, okay? And that's just my method and that's just what it is, okay? I just can't, and I felt like a failure for so many years because I know that good screenwriters do, good screenwriters. I know the methods they do. I've read all the books. I know how to do all these things. It just doesn't work for me. It's very constipating, it traps me in my head. And I think it goes back to that sort of, I work from sensation in a way. So I have to get in there and put my hands in there to find where I want to go. And I would not recommend this method to anybody. My productivity is much lower than if I had been in the end of my days. I will write much less than I ever did. But part of the journey of accepting who I am as a person and who I'd like to encourage other people to do is just accept yourself as you are, not how you wish you would be. Oh, this is me. I've written treatments for years and it's exhausting. Exactly, Cassie. Like I'm the kind of person who I need to write the script and then I can write the pitch. Even if it's like a terrible version of it, like I want to make sure there's something there. And like, I feel like in the end, I'm able to sculpt a show that has more flavor and more personality and is different from other things I've done. So, but that's just, oh, Cassie, that's so wonderful to hear. I mean, as long as you just write more than I do, you're probably fine. And you'll probably have a more but I'm an artistic person, right? Like, I'm not just going to write a procedural, like, okay, I need to do an hour detective pilot. All right, let's just do it. And then you read these kind of soulless sort of paint by number things where no insult to Save the Cat, but like the idea that somebody's going to tell me what to do on page 10 just makes me irate. So, but you know, clearly she's making me feel a lot better about my process. Okay, yes. I'm not telling you that you'll find, you know, commercial success like that, because there are, when you do the commercial, you have to kind of find, but if you work your way, then you can find a way to work the commercial way, but you know that you're at least loyal to who you are as an artist, because ultimately all we have is the stories that we can tell in this life. You know, we want to leave what's special for that to us ultimately in this world, because that's all we got. We're going to die one day. That's the heart of the speech.
You see, I love this because actually I was doing a deep dive into the Guild and talking about how amazing the structure is and how it flows. So
thank you.
I think that we have a kind of innate sense of structure or of storytelling. And I know that you said that you've been diving into Greek mythology and things lately.
Yeah.
So have you found that, you know, influencing kind of...
I mean, I want to write something in that period just because I'm like, Gorgons are awesome. You know, the Guild is very interesting because it was, so I was written out of blackmail because I was part of a women's group and all I did was play video games, and all these other women were aspiring directors and writers and things like that. And they were like, you need to stop showing up and only telling us about your video games, Felicia. And so I was like, well, I know something about gaming, and I know that what people know about gaming is not true. And I think those two things are really important to have. Be loyal to you as an artist. Oh, that's great, Vera. Also nice hair. So there's two really important things. It's like you want to be loyal to who you are inside, but you also want to show people that they're wrong about something, right? So every single person has something totally unique to say in this world. None of us have the same perspective on life, right? So one of my first exercises in my book, Embrace Your Weird, is like write a paragraph about a cat or draw a cat. And you just have to understand that no single person is going to draw the same cat. There's always going to be something different. And if you write a paragraph about him, there's not going to be one paragraph that's exactly the same as the other. They might be similar, but they're not. And that's what's wonderful about life and art. So you want to show your cat to the world, and then you also want to have that outrage underneath, like, you guys don't know cats. This is a cat. So you want to show your perspective and know it's right in some version for you. And I feel like that's all good art, right? You have something to say, and it's unique to your experience, and you want to educate people about who you are and what your perspective on, you know, cats is. This advice is more morbid than I was expecting. Sorry.
I find it absolutely the opposite. I find it so freeing. Because as somebody that's like, I'm the opposite. I'm obsessed with structure, and I feel like, oh, I need my boundaries. Give me a box.
I'm so jealous of you. But that's also, you know, definitely you have to have those at the end of the day. Like, I always work better on a deadline. And working within the Guild, like, so that script came out of that blackmail, but I sat on the characters, developing the characters for months. Like, I was like, okay, how many people can I realistically have? Well, these are the kind of peoples I've known in games, and these are the funny things about them that always made me laugh. And it's not like one person, it's just like an amalgam of archetypes. But we all know that. If you're a mom, you know other archetypes of moms, right? You can be like, oh, there's the high-strung one. There's the one who literally, you know, says their kid knows the alphabet and they don't know any of the words. There's the one who doesn't care where their kid's doing. So like, you know, you just have to kind of like think about, oh, these are the kind of people I know who are like this, and kind of put them together in a way. But so that's what I did for the Guild for months. And then I could not start writing. And I was like, you know, finally my partner, who also is a writer, like, he was, you just got to start writing because you're sitting on this way too long. And I started writing, and I got 10 pages in. I was like, I don't know where to go from here. And I was like, oh, I need to start outlining. But those first 5 pages probably, I think, were the exact same 5 pages that ended up in the screenplay, ultimately. And so I wrote it as a half-hour pilot, and nobody in Hollywood understood this thing. They literally had no idea half the words I was writing. And they're like, go write an office spec and you might get on staff somewhere. I'm like, that sounds awful. So my friend who was in the group was like, let's divide this into little pieces. And I read a lot of short stories, and I watched a lot of like weird serial things when I was a kid because I only watched Nick at Night. And so I was like, oh, I know how to write a cliffhanger, and I'm an internet user myself. And I was like, well, what would make me want to come back next week? So literally, I was just thinking from the point of view of like me as a user, like what can make this exciting? And it ended up being kind of natural to just divide things into groups. For the rest of the guild, I wrote them as features, and then I would divide them up because I started only writing to the end, and then that would screw me up. Do you know what I'm saying? So I couldn't have the structure of the 5 to 10 minutes. I had to just write the screenplay and be like, well, where are good demarcation points? Again, the opposite of what normal people would probably have to do.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to detour us into our hero selves.
Oh, yay.
So this is something that I absolutely loved in your book because I stole it from your Instagram. Sorry.
I love it. I forgot where those sneakers went. Those are great sneakers. What happened to them?
Are great sneakers.
Thanks.
So the thing that I love about your book is that as writers, we are constantly, okay, your voice in your scripts and in your book and everything is so strong. It's so you in everything that you do. And as writers, I feel that we're constantly told that we need our work to show our voice. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I love about Hero Selves is that you're not saying, oh, well, maybe if we talk like a wise guy, then our voice will come out, right? That's not what it's about at all. It's that we actually have to figure out who we are and what we're trying to say before we even have a voice to put into our work. Yeah. And you said in your book, if I try and find the quote, I'm gonna lose my place, but something about the fact that you created an identity for yourself rather than letting one evolve naturally. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about how you found your weird.
Yeah, I mean, I was always weird because of the way I was raised. I just wasn't exposed to things that other kids would be exposed to. So, and there were certain things that I don't know if I was necessarily going to be a classical ballerina and a classical violinist and, do Shakespeare and weird musicals. That was just what my mom kind of offered me the opportunity to do. And I gravitated toward it because I had no other outlet. I wasn't exposed to much else that my mom didn't show me. And I guess that's good and bad. And so I think being a performer from so young, you kind of base your self-worth on your achievement and how people like you and how they receive you. And I think, before the internet, that might have just been exclusively for people who were performers, but now it's everybody because we're all performers. Nobody's actually honest on their Instagram. And if I actually post what I had for dinner that looks like slop, nobody's going to like it. Like it on there, but I would have to do, an artfully arranged plate, or I'd have to look my best. And I'm going in there making effort to take a picture that I know people will receive me better. And so I like to make an analogy of social media as us sitting in a car alone, papering all the windows with nice pictures of us when we're just sitting inside not being seen, right? And so that's kind of what I feel like all of us kind of go through, especially over time. All of us kind of build that up in real life anyway, right? So we're not really showing our mom who we really are. We're not showing our best friend. We have versions of ourselves. And I think physiologically or mentally, we can only have 5 intimate people in our lives who really know us. But do they really know us? Don't start thinking like that because you get depressed. I do it at 3 a.m. in bed. So anyway, in order to be an artist, right, you can't just work on this superficial sort of thing we put around us for other people to experience. I've done some writer's room situations, and there's always that usually guy in a room who's like, yeah, we could do that thing from Firefly, or we could do that. Oh, it's like that, the end of the second act in this thing. And I'm like, and I feel inadequate because I'm like, I must not know movies very well because I literally don't think like that. I don't think, I just think oh, what's cool to me. And maybe that's, you do need to be educated, you need to watch TV and movies, but I don't base my art on what I've seen other people do in the past. I feel like if you want to make great lasting art, you really have to know yourself. And yeah, you can write, an office spec or a law show very successfully if you know who you are, because you can write the bad version that's just basically the outer dressing of those tropey shows, or you can discover who you are and what you have to say that's unique and what you want to say to the world, and you can put your twist on those things, and that's where great art that lasts a long time goes. Everybody's seen that sort of hour procedural that's boring. Everyone's seen the hour one that's whoa, where did that character come from? That's the thing that lasts, right? And that's what I'm always interested in doing. No problem for people who just want to be a writer and write those kind of things. No problem with that. That's just not who I am.
So I want to talk about leading into that branding, because you are really big. You seem to be really big in your interviews and in your book and everything about people enjoying the journey. Like, you need to be doing your art because you enjoy the art, not because you're in it for the end reward.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, we are trying to usually get out there and share it with people, and you are amazing with this. I mean, you are always at the forefront anyway, you know, doing Twitch streams, doing the internet in general before it was cool and before it was even widely available. Do you have any tips if you're building your brand from scratch now? Do you have any tips about how to launch yourself?
I mean, for me, it goes back to that hero self thing. Like, all the exercises in my book are just encouraging people to discover who they are. And it's divided into a past, present, and future. So a lot of it, the first part is encouraging you to go back to your past and discover things that you might have forgotten about yourself, hobbies that you loved as a kid, passions that you didn't pursue, things you were good at, but you kind of forgot, like, oh, I did cross stitch. Like, you know, I think a lot of us go forgotten because we're moving through life so anxious about the future, we just forget ourselves, right? And so that's part of it. And then discovering who you are now, but what you'd like to change, and what are the things that you want to add to your life, and what enriches you. And then in the future, putting your dreams out there, because your dreams define you as much as your past or present, right? And so that the whole process is meant to have you discover who you are as a person and what you want to say to the world, right? Because if you only say, well, what I want the world to like about me, then you're working from a completely false point of view anyway, and you're not going to succeed, and you're going to feel very conditional, because you're not going to love yourself, because it's all conditional affirmation you're seeking. So the minute one person doesn't like you, you're going to lose faith in your art, because it isn't coming from a place that's rock steady inside your heart. If I go in, for me, if I go in an audition and I know that I left there in that room exactly what I would do with the character, and I consider I did a good job. It doesn't matter if I get hired or not. When I go in seeking approval, when I'm like, well, I think they want this from this character. I go in, and if I don't get the job, I feel particularly crushed, because I think my inner artist knows I betrayed myself, right? So I think that's with all of us. I mean, I don't mean to be oovy groovy about it, but all we have, again, is who we are, and our job is to find that out, and it can change over time. But if you have an element of that and that self-assuredness, then you can brand yourself by being who you are, right? And so for me, my career took off because for years I was an actor just trying to get approval. I just wanted to succeed on other people's terms. I was begging to be recognized and picked up because I was special, but it was a very vague special. You know, my whole 20s were just a blur of just dumbness. And then, you know, finally I realized, oh, I started doing my web series, and I found something that I would have done for free. Like, there's no way. The Guild took off because of timing and all these other things, and my knowing the internet, because I was raised on the internet. But at the same time, people resonated with it because it had a truth behind it, and I would have written that show for 5 people. And so I've gone through many iterations of my career where I've fallen into the trap of doing what people wanted me to do. And I think, you know, getting out of Hollywood and being able to define myself by my own terms is where my happiness lies. I still like to work in Hollywood, but I know I'll never be accepted as a person there necessarily. So I'm just going to do my thing. And if they decide they like something I do, then welcome in. I'd love your money. But at the end of the day, I've found a lot of misery in trying to pursue approval with the things that I do, because honestly, not everybody's going to want or like what I do, and that's okay.
You can come to Scotland, Chris, and I'll do a movie with you. Immediately.
It took 5 years to write. No, I've gotten much faster over the years because I've gotten to know myself versus what I think I should have been doing. I think that's really the key.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Pratchett, do you know his books at all?
Oh, of course, Discworld. Yeah, of course.
He never outlines at all. Did you know that?
Really?
Never. He just
oh my God, I'm so inspired because I'm actually working on a couple of book things, and doing the proposals are killing me. And I'm like, maybe I should just write the book first. It might take 2 years, but at least I'll get something done versus like stare at a page for 6 months, empty page.
So that brings me to a really good point, actually, time management. I mean, because you are also a mother. Your daughter is what, 3 years
Three and
old?
a half, yeah.
Wow, congratulations, first
Thank
of
you
all.
very much. Yeah.
How do you, and for anybody that doesn't know, so they can find you on Twitch. You're streaming multiple times a week, at least 3 times a week, usually more like
Yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah. Okay, stop it. Stop, Mom.
And you have a Discord channel that,
Yeah.
that people can join. We've tried to have a Discord channel. We have like 20 people. Yay for the 20 people.
This is the thing. You have to build from zero. I built, I left my company, Geek and Center. I put all my personal energy into that and the guild. And I started from zero again. And when I started from zero and didn't expect anything, that I don't care how many people are on that Discord. We have like 10,000 now, but when I first started, we had 100. So I think starting stuff for the right reasons and not wanting to just like go huge overnight, you can actually create something that is meaningful underneath. That's really where community sticks, I think. So don't feel real bad. Your 20 people are all awesome.
That's true. They are. I mean, do you, because I find as a writer, sometimes it is hard to set aside time and feel like it's legitimate. Like, okay, this is writing time. It always feels like you can push it for something else.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
You have, I mean, the most successful I've been was when I've written my books and I had sort of like, I used Scrivener and I had like a writing count and I just forced myself to write 2,000 words. I basically started in January and I was like, I need to have a draft of this done by April, whatever. And I had never written a book before. And I sat down and I started out and it was every single procrastination thing in the world. And I was like, okay, just get this word count thing going on and just like write until you just get exhausted. And I started out at 500 and I just made myself do it every day because I went in at 8 a.m. and I would write 30 minutes of just nonsense on a page, just like literal, like free speed, blah, 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 blah. And I mostly just deleted all of it afterwards. And then I'd start writing and I'd be like, okay, write until you're tired, but just at least sit here for 2 hours. And so from 8 to 11 on and off, I would just sit there. And I got up to like 5,000 words a day. Like, I'm not kidding. A couple days, an average of 2,000 words, but a couple days I would do 4,000 or 5,000 words because I kind of trained myself to just show up for myself. And the easiest thing, especially as a woman, I think, is to give over yourself for other people's needs, especially when we have so many things pulling ourselves. Like I'm looking at my email right now. I have 7 emails. I can't wait to just put these people first. So, it's a lot of self-discipline and setting goals for yourself. And also maybe pretending that time is for somebody else. So sometimes I'll be like, 9 to 11 is for my baby. It's not because I have somebody watching her from then. But like, I'll pretend that time is for someone else because I know that I can't possibly prioritize myself as much as I prioritize other people. And that's just something about me that it just is. So, and it's very easy to sort of like, for me to give up my writing time. And I think that's just the eternal problem, unless you have some kind of like mental thing where you just have to write, which I know people do. I'm jealous of those people, but it just requires self-discipline and maybe pretending that you have to show up for your writing partner, and your writing partner is an imaginary woman named Leslie inside you.
Leslie and I,
yeah,
we're gonna do it.
She's really pissed off when you delay her. Okay, so I don't know, maybe take a picture of like a stock photo from a frame you buy at like a dime store, and just have Leslie on the wall and be like, "Excuse me, we're supposed to be writing right now."
There you go. Imaginary friend guilt trip. That's what we need.
Exactly.
So you are really kind of leading into that, but you are incredibly open in your book, in both books actually, about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And, trying to balance this work-life thing that we're all kind of struggling with. And what I want to talk about is in current times, in COVID, because a lot of people are having trouble writing at all, even people that are usually prolific and things, and then we feel guilty because we can't actually produce anything.
Yeah.
Do you, how are you coping? Do you have any methods for staying creative or not, or just taking the pressure off?
I mean, I think I've taken a lot of pressure off. I also started like an anti-anxiety medication earlier this year that has changed my life. I wish I had it so much earlier in my life, to be honest with you, because part of the reason why I do so well behind a camera in my house and not in, I'm not a huge actress or a huge screenwriter right now. I mean, especially actor, is that when I get in front of people, my heart would just like, it would go crazy. So I would have panic attacks like all the time. And so I do great work when I can control everything about it. But when other people are sitting there judging me, my brain just went crazy. And so the anti-anxiety drugs have really helped me. I might wean a little bit off them, but at the same time, it's like a night and day situation. Also, I think innately anxiety is about what we fear, and we can't control the future right now. And I think that really triggers a lot of people. And it doesn't feel like, well, what am I going to do with this screenplay? Because you're, again, putting the end result first before you put the actual work in front of you, right? And so that's a big core tenet of my book, is that enjoy the work for the work's sake. Don't do it for the end result, because you're just going to be disappointed. Even if one thing takes off, the next thing might not, and you're going to feel like you're a failure. You're not talented because you're not doing it for the right reasons. And so for me, like, if somebody's encountering problems for that, you're kind of like subliminating a lot of things at the same time, because there's no industry. It's going to be harder to sell things. Agents are going to link you, blah, 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 blah. I would encourage you to just write like a fairy tale, write, an essay about how you hate cats if you're a terrible person. Do anything. And this is my advice. Like, if you have a problem, why not figure out the most fun way to solve your problem? So go write in a different person with, go write in a park, go write with just chalk, I think being playful about your problems as a creator really, really helps, because your inner creator is kind of like our kid, right? Kids just naturally create all the time. So the heart of our creativity is the kid inside of us, that person who never knew that their drawings could be bad, that never knew that, wearing a pot on your head isn't like a helmet going to space. So that sort of nurturing that part of yourself is the only way you can get over creative blocks, because the blocks are all adult blocks, right? They're all result blocks, or things we think about ourselves we have adopted over the years that people have told us, well, you're not creative when you're doing this or that. So, the only way to get around it is to embrace the fact that you have to, your job is to be playful. Your job is to amuse yourself, right? And so looking at yourself like, what can I do to make this kid, have fun again? I think that really helps me a lot. And also just getting, going easy on yourself. Maybe you don't write for months. That's okay. It's okay. And I think when we are gentle with ourselves and not forcing ourselves into situations where we feel insecure and unhappy and inhibited, I know that maybe my body was freaking out because it didn't want to be there innately, right? I don't want to base my whole career around my panic attacks. That's not right either. But it's also something to consider, that we need to be our own caretaker. We are our own child as well. And so if you wouldn't treat your own child like that, why are we treating ourselves like that ultimately?
I find you so brave. Like, it's like not just in the way that you discuss all of these things, but just the way that you go out there and do these things, and yet all the time you're sort of confessing that you are nervous about it. You're not kind of innately like fearless. You just are. You just overcome it and are fearless.
I think that the reason why that is because I felt like in the beginning, it's all going through phases. You get a little bit more famous and people know you outside of yourself, and then they expect things of you, and then business comes in and gives you money to be that thing, but it's only that thing you can be, and then you feel like I'm neglecting this other part of myself. So I feel like when you can find your authentic self, and let that out, that's when you feel very settled in yourself and happy. And I think that's, finally, after being years of being rejected by Hollywood for what I am, and thinking, should I get a nose job? Should I have short hair? Should I be blonde? How can I change myself to be palatable for the machine? That it's business. I can't fault them. It's a business, and they didn't want me as a product. But being embraced for who I truly was when I felt purpose, and I felt settled in myself, and I felt like, oh, the art that I make, there are people out there who like it. Maybe it's not millions, and maybe they won't be millions to make it, but this is where I'm happy. And happiness is really something I don't think you can artificially find like that. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. So my friend, it's perfectly. We had a few pre-submitted questions, and one of them was from Karen, and she's a director, and what she finds is that she's constantly, even after the Me Too movement, she's constantly trying to like justify herself and having people question her. So how do you deal with that? You know, I mean, here you are as a leader, and you've run a production company, you ran Geek and Sundry, you've had all this success, but do you still find that Hollywood is not, you know, no?
No, they don't care about me. They're almost happy to make me go away because they don't understand me. And then for years I didn't understand myself because I was like, well, how can I make you accept me? I did all this. Look at all this stuff that I built up. You know, look what I made. How can you not exploit me well? And so, yeah, it's really tough. But at the same time, it's a business. And listen, if you're a shoemaker and you make this awesome shoe, and the people are like, I don't want to make that. You can't be like, you're a terrible person. No. It's just that's not what they need, right? But that doesn't mean you don't make that shoe. I guess that's my point. And we all need to support ourselves. And I know I'm sort of preaching a hobbyist sort of attitude, but not really, because great work doesn't come from, you know, making the shoe that the manufacturers want. I mean, it might, you know, but the great work comes from the designer. You know the designer's name, right? Because they're doing the things that are out of the box, that surprise people, that, you know, make people go, oh, you know, change their perspective on shoes, right? And that's what we all aspire to do. And that's where a great screenplay will come from, right? You know, it's not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to write a typical Sylvester Stallone, or not Sylvester Stallone. I had a weird dream about him dying last night. So, and I was at his funeral and I was playing an ocarina. It was very weird. But anyway.
Sylvester Stallone in Zelda.
I don't know. And I was like, what? Why? I don't even know him. Like, anyway. So, my point is that you have to, again, you have to be loyal to who you are in order to become, and you have to find that happy medium, right? But you always need to start from that authentic point of view, because that is what Hollywood will eat up and spit out. But as long as you know what you're there for, right? I think that's my problem in getting out of the Hollywood thing. I mean, I'm still, you know, kind of in there, but now I've kind of removed myself to have a break. And I realized that I didn't know what I wanted well enough when they wanted something from me. So again, I kind of fell into a trap after knowing myself really well and being rewarded for that, of trying to please them and try to change myself to be like, okay, how can you use me with all the success I've made outside of the boundaries of what you've done? And so maybe outside the boundaries is where I am happiest. And if that intersects at some time, that'll be fine. But I started betraying who I was. I was like, well, what half-hour comedy can I write for you? Here's an idea. And then my manager would be like, I don't want to take anything man-hating out. And I'm like, what? It's Me Too right now. Why can't I take a man-hating show out? He's like, and then I'd be like, I'm a terrible writer because I can't think of an idea that this manager will like. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's just, you know, don't let the gatekeepers dictate. Know that the gatekeepers will try to dictate, but at least have in your heart, like, this is the project I want, and let's try to figure out, how do I retain the heart of this project? And you kind of mentioned studio notes and things like that. So I've had many a situation where I or a friend have gotten to a development situation where the notes, while well-intentioned, have led it so far away from what the original person wanted that they've lost touch with what they want to. And so when going back to that authentic, you know, hero self, if you are really in touch with that, you can take those notes and try to guide it into something that will be a compromise, but you won't lose sight of it because you have an anchor that's holding you to why you did it in the first place. That's what I didn't have for years. And that's what I always want to try to have. And I had to sort of cut it off to get that anchor back. It's not a continuous thing. It's not like you have an anchor and you're always secure in who you are as an artist. That's never going to happen because criticism is too hard to take. But at the end of the day, if you know who you are and why you're writing something and what drew you to it that makes you special to this project and vice versa, then at least you'll be able to take those notes and craft them in a way that you don't lose sight of what you actually cared about in the end.
And is that the same thing that you look for as a producer? If you're producing somebody else's work, are you looking for that innate, that's the one thing it's got to have? You can work on everything else.
I think you can see it, you know, as a producer. You know, I'm trying to do less producing now because I really want to concentrate on my own writing. I got away from it. But to me, as a director, as a writer, as a artist, you want to bring, you know, if you're guiding an artist, you want to bring out, you don't want to just be like upending what they do. You want to guide them to the best version of what they have, right? And if not, you shouldn't have hired that person for that job or that actor or, you know, bought that screenplay, right? there is a core to every piece of art, hopefully, that's authentic. And if you lose that, then you lose the whole heart of it. And actually, going back to what your friend was talking about, as I think that you were kind of implying that as a woman, she was having a lot of hard work kind of proving herself to the industry, right? Like she was having to prove herself over and over again. I think women always have that problem. Of all the success that I've had over the years, I've been poached more by men than rewarded for what I innovated, right? So I realized that because men and women are not taught from a young age that they can be co-patriots. They're always separated, right? And so men look at women as other and women look at men as other, and we have this weird divide where we can't be collaborators as easily as two men could be. And so, the out of the box things I've done have been co-opted by other people, but not as rewarded. And that's okay. It's just, I think that gender does play into that a little bit. And for women, we're always going to come in with sort of a question mark on our face. And until enough women are in positions of power and enough women are out there doing the work that show, a woman makes a mediocre movie, and that sort of plays into a bias against women. A guy makes a mediocre movie and it's Tuesday, right? So, it's really tough. And I believe that we're going through a transition in culture that maybe some of those things will be broken down, but I think it's always going to be a battle because of the way we raise children. And so I don't know, I have sort of a jaded attitude toward it because I don't know how true change can be fomented with the way that children are taught in media and in life about, their differences, when really, especially as young children, there aren't that many.
So speaking to that a little bit, Chris, can I have my final slide, the future, please?
Oh,
yes.
Beautiful!
USS Felicitations!
Oh my God, this is incredible. I love it so much. I love it. This is the best talk ever. Thank you for inviting me, Savannah.
Oh, thank you so much. So I feel that you've been at the forefront of so many things. Even now you're testing video games, you're doing Twitch streams, and let's face it, the industry is in flux right now. We're all learning all of these new technologies. Certainly at the festival, I'd never even met them before. This was supposed to be my first physical festival, and then all of a sudden I'm on the team and we're running all of these things. So yeah, it's been upending life, and in sometimes the best way, because here I am with you, and I would have never gotten this opportunity ever in a million years before. So it brings with it a lot of opportunity. Do you have any thoughts on kind of where the industry is headed, and if one were to be getting out there, where do we start? The internet is now packed with people on YouTube and various other things. Like, I don't know, where do you see us headed?
I think there's a lot of media consolidation. I think that in the back end, I think that you have to have a package that is unbelievably packed. If you don't have the rock in something, forget trying to sell it, unless you are a person who has been marginalized in the past and has a story that hasn't been told before. There's so many amazing stories from people of color, trans, people, all sorts of people who have been neglected in media and who now are being included and amplified. And I think that's so incredible, women included. So it is a great time to be telling your unique story if you have a very unique viewpoint. I think there's opportunity there. As a business standpoint, again, even if you have that unique point of view, you kind of have to go through the system to get people there. But the great thing is, with the sort of deconsolidation of media, I have my fans watch me instead of binging Netflix, right? And so there's so much. I play Luigi Mansion 3 with my 3-year-old instead of watching a TV show with her. So, content is content, and everyone's screaming for attention. The wonderful thing is that if you write something, you can get it out there. So, web series are not really viable right now. The budgets were never justified with the amount of, and really it's because Hollywood didn't get enough TV shows out of web series to be able to make an industry out of it. Podcasts are a completely different thing. People are doing podcasts. I imagine if you have an innovative way to do a live stream right now, you can really get a lot of attention. So really bore down into what makes you excited. to be honest with you, my camera is super fancy. I had the best time setting this camera up. Have the best time doing research on how to live stream well and do my podcast and, write in innovative ways. That really fuels me. And it's made me so much more excited than all the Hollywood pitches that I've done over the last 3 years, where I just got almost and no's and then buying and then passing and all these things. So to me, I'm excited about the opportunity of writing books and audio format. The bar to entry is lower, but the upside is very high, because there are a lot of companies that now, because the industry is super hungry for new stories, that especially in audio form, they're being picked up quite a bit for other sort of iterations. And for live streaming, there's everywhere to innovate. I think this was going to happen inevitably, but COVID just sped it up 5-10 years. So this is our life now. And as an artist, yes, you have to scratch the itch of having your samples that are, if you want to be a professional writer in Hollywood, but you also have the opportunity to self-publish, to get your work out there and to get more work out there. Because, you write one thing, don't expect it to go viral, just start writing the next thing. So that's what I'm excited about. And I'm just having fun just streaming. I love it so much. I'm starting to have more creative ideas about what to do at the time. And really, if you start from a point of joy and playfulness, then wherever it leads you is going to be the right direction.
Amazing. So I know, oh my gosh. Do you have time for a few questions?
Yeah.
Okay, because I totally monopolized the entire thing. Okay.
So long. That's why I stream hours a week, and I'm like, God, you really talk a lot, girl. But that's like, I never talked to anybody before I was 15, so I think I just have a lot of words saved up.
It's saved, coming out slowly. Well, we love it. So I'm going to go ahead and show your book again. Wait, which way around? Here we go.
Yay!
Here's my camera. Yes, so you guys should go and see that. It's FeliciaDayBook.com, I think.
Mm-hmm. FeliciaDayBook.com.
Yes, is your books and your Twitch streams and podcast. And we're going to go ahead and grab some questions. So there we go. Will Masterson.
Oh, message you give your 18-year-old self: do some drugs, have some sex. I'm not really kidding. I would tell myself to just fail. Just fail and be okay with doing bad work. I guess that is the core of everything. I have been so constipated my whole life, not physically, although sometimes, but I've been so, without wanting to show even the hint of not being perfect at things, I kept everything inside, and I wasn't willing to sort of churn. And I know so many more ideas would come from me if I just turned a little bit faster. And I'm definitely better at it now, almost twice, more than twice that age. But if you think every idea is precious and can't be replaced. No, because if you start the flow, you start the churn, you can get another idea after that, and you'll get better and better. So, the idea that you're not perfect on the first go is the most destructive thing you can possibly do. So churn. That's what I would tell myself. Experience things. Exactly right. That's exactly what I meant, by doing drugs and everything.
And if anybody has a question, go ahead and post it at the bottom, because if we have to go back, we might not be able to grab them. I know we had one of the ones that came in was how did World of Warcraft, which I was totally addicted to.
You were, Savannah?
Oh, absolutely. That's how I found you. Yeah,
what?
I just wrote a blog about how, I was a druid. I used to bounce around, because druids, you can do so many different roles, but mainly I was a healer. But then sometimes we needed a tank, and then I'd go, but I was the worst tank because I hated to be in front of any. I was like, doesn't somebody else want to go first?
You're so Kodak.
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw Codex, I was like, and I discovered the guild when I was getting a business degree that I hated, and didn't know what to do with my life. So, and then I ended up, I was like, no, I'm never going to use my business degree. And I got a Best Women in Business and was up there getting my award. And they said, what are you going to do? What business are you going to? And I was like, I'm going to LA to do the film industry.
Oh my God, Savannah, that's what a great idea. But here's the thing though. I have a math degree. I'm a classical ballet. I have so many I did opera. Every single one of those things has played into my career, because those are the things that make me different from a random redhead who's an actor, right? So you doing business, God, I wish. I would also tell my 18-year-old self, know how to do some business, because I am wretched at it. Anyway, So all those things that you learned will play into you as a creator. Like if you go in and want to do, interview for a show, on an hour show, you having a business degree is an advantage over somebody else who doesn't have that experience and has only watched Law and Order their whole life, right? So like the more interesting you can make yourself, not for other people, but for yourself, the more you're going to have to draw from. And that's why I said the sex and drugs things, because, I could have probably done business degree, courses too, but just experiencing life in all different ways, whether you love it or not, is so important, especially when you're young, when you have a little, slack to do that. If I did that right now, I'd just be sad.
Thanks, Vera.
Thanks, Vera. Oh, boy. If I had to choose, would you rather be writing a new book, acting as a character in a high-profile series, creating your own new series, or gaming? Boy, I mean, my lazy self says that I would just be gaming because I just love it so much. I love my community being right there. I love it so much. I really, it's really hard to separate your art from having had done it versus doing it. And so I think, for me, I'm really diving into the challenge of books because I will have complete control over that. And I'm still in a sort of state of mind after having a baby and getting 2 steps away from Hollywood in a way as a creator. I'm still trying to find my voice a little bit or refine who I am, which is great. Like, I think all of us after COVID, we're all going to be different people, right? And so right now is the time to find out who we want to be and what we're letting go from the past to become something new. And right now is a wonderful time to be doing work on yourself like that. And so to me, writing books is a challenge because I've only written my own essays, but like that's a challenge that I want to bite into. So I guess I would say that, but I do like playing video games too. So I can do both, can't I?
Absolutely. Healthy and balanced.
Exactly. How do I utilize my geekiness in my career? I mean, I don't know what your geekiness is. So I don't know what your career is. It's a little vague and you don't have a face. So, or a name. What I would say is that, again, find out what makes you different. Like one geek is really into Call of Duty and the other one loves Greek history, right? The other one loves art history and the other one knows all, Feynman's lectures. So, I don't know what career you're in, but anything that makes you different from other people can be utilized. Like I've done many talks about finding the art in your science because you have to have imagination and not just knowledge to be a great scientist and discover new things, right? If you want to pioneer in anything, you have to have a knowledge of yourself and a thirst for knowledge for other things in order to put things together that haven't been put together before, right? So I would just encourage you to do the work in yourself and be secure in what you have to offer the world, and then infuse that into what you want to do in your life, whether it's a salesperson, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a zoologist, whether it's a writer. Like all of those things are valid and can use some that self-knowledge in your life.
Amazing. Let's take one more because I know you've already given us so much of your time and I'm so grateful. There you go. What was the best part of working on Supernatural?
Being lifted by Jared Padalecki because he's like a tree. So it's kind of like Ent. It's like an ant with a really pretty face lifting you up. And I have to tell you, it's not bad, guys. Okay.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. I really cannot thank you enough for this interview.
Well, Savannah, you've inspired me to get my ass in gear because your admiration of what I do means that you will like what I do, and that's enough. And that's really about art. Like, if we really get down to it, if we affect one other person with our art, that's our version of immortality. Because again, to bring it back around, we're all going to die.
Amazing. All right, Chris.
So, amazing. Thank you so much, both Savannah and Felicia, for being so fabulous. I've got to position myself now. So, Felicia, I have a request for you.
Yeah?
We run a program each year for screenwriters, which is extremely intense, and it taps very much into people's fears and creativity. And I'd love you to jump online and have a chat with us when we do that. It'll be the middle of next year, and 1,000 billion things.
I would totally be happy. They'll probably write way more screenplays than me, but yes, I'm happy to do it. I'm there, man.
And if you're ever in England, what you don't know is we also do firewalk training. So I'll take you across a firewalk. And you can walk across 1,800 degree hot coals with us.
Is that how you keep warm? Really?
No, that's how we train our screenwriters. We make them walk fire. I quite literally do
Yes.
it.
I want to do it. I'll do it.
Okay, well, we'll make it happen.
I have not had a pedicure in like a year. Okay, so we're good. I got calluses on my heels. I'm doing it.
You know, there is some truth to that, because when we do it, we spring it on people, and you can see there's always one or two people who go, oh dear God, I actually have to show my feet. Not the walking on 1,800 degree hot coals bit, but I have to show my feet.
But I don't like to see other people's toes. It really turns me off. There's some people on the internet who are the opposite. Let's not talk about them. Okay, yes, I'll do it.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you both for doing such a great job. Savannah, I just want to acknowledge you for being an awesome human being and stepping into the breach.
And a very good interviewer, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and Felicia, obviously
just interview ever.
Thank you for just being you. And I'm sure our paths will cross again. And yeah,
it's just
fabulous.
I'm happy to help. I love helping other people do work that's better than mine. I love it. It's my passion.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we're going to be back next week, and we'll see you all then. Thank you so much.